come to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. I was following the Nairobi 99 protest, and today my observation was on the police conduct. I wanted to see what exactly will be their conduct, because that is where the spotlight is. It is them that were on spotlight. And number two, this was the first protest after the broad-based thing announced, and William Ruto even decided to swear in the new cabinet secretaries the day there were protests in State House, in Nairobi. So I know organizing the swearing in of the ministers was done just to try to show the diplomats that are currently in Nairobi and the country that in spite of the protest, things are really moving on. And again, in any case, there will be what they did, the strategy was deploy the police and over-suppress the protest so that you'll take credit that it is the broad-based thing that has now brought relative calm. But contrary to that, what I have seen in CBD is just an act of cowardice. To say it as it is an act of cowardice. I want us to look through some few videos here that I think you must have seen even the mainstream spaces. Look at this video. The police are arresting those young people. They are standing. The streets are deserted. They're just chanting, singing, and they're saying, it is our right to protest, just that. And then unarmed, unprovoked, you just go and arrest. If you ask me, if you look at that manner of arrest, it is not something that maybe you can say, you know, there is no justification for arresting those young people. There are a handful of them, because what they did is they barricaded the roads leading to CBD. Both the other entry, the roads to Nairobi, to CBD were barricaded, they were blocked. And I think by around noon, they were already reversing. They were already blocking matatus that were getting to Nairobi CBD. So that is what they did first, so that they will then handle the protesters that were in town. And what they did is just arresting anyone who was there. If you look at that manner of arrest, so what exactly is the problem? You know, sometimes you wonder, and of course, the police have always been pursuing goons. So those young people that were protesting there, are they goons? Now, apart from that video, I want us to look at another one here.
Muka bwana. Nani? Mara moja. Huyo mama. Haya, tuende kama unataka kuinunua utainunua.
Na mimi mkenda
na inaonekana tumepoteza mawasiliano na Asiba kutoka Nakuru. Turejee hapa Nairobi ambapo tunaona purukushani hiyo katika mojawapo ya barabara za jiji. Kuna mwandamanaji mmoja ambaye amebebwa mzega na maofisa wa usalama. Amebebwa mzega ni kama anakwenda kuingizwa kwenye karandinga lile lori la polisi. Baada ya kupatikana akiwa ni mwandamanaji, na ndio wamekubali kuingia ndani ya karandinga hilo. Basi anaomba kutulia hapa kijana, tukupeleke mahali ambapo unastahili kwenda. Hizo ni picha za katikati mwa jiji la Nairobi. Turejee hapa studioni ambapo mimi nitapata fursa kidogo ya kupumua kabla ya kuendelea na taarifa zaidi.
We just look at this spray. Now this one, these young people were even seated, unprovoked, unarmed. So they just stayed sit down there, just seated, because of course there was no one in town. So you cannot even say that these people have reached peace. But there is no one in town. They were just seated there. And you can see the way even that gentleman has been carried, like, you know, in a very inhuman manner. And probably what I can see there is police did not want to see anyone in town. Then the best thing they would have done is to outlaw and maybe put some curfew. Because the arrests have been done like, they don't want to see any protest. In fact, that is what I can say, is that they didn't want to see any protest. And probably that is what they were looking at. The other video that I can also show you is this one here.
Fanya coverage hili kando ya barabara huko. Fanya coverage hapo kando.
hapana, asante kutulia. Hadi pande ile ama pande ile. I can't tell you where to be. Yes. I can't tell you where to be.
What do you want to tell me to come up?
I'm telling you, uko katikati yangu, kaa huko.
No, si umetoka huko juu.
Kaa. I can't tell you where to be. Kaa.
No, that is not okay. That is not okay.
Wewe kaa hapo.
Kuna kitu tunafanya, unakuja unasimama kati yetu unaanza kutuambia tuko kati yenu.
So what are you going to do? Angalia kamera. Ukitoka kaa.
This guy wants us to beg you. He wants us to beg you. We are journalists. We are working the way you are working. Respect us. Respect yourself.
For these guys, as much as tunajitetea kama journalists, we'll still be assholes and do something.
True. But Kenya niko sure hapa mtarushiwa tear gas.
Lazima turushiwe
hapa. Hapa tarushiwa tear gas hapa.
venye mnajua ndio mnaleta tena watu.
So guys, we had to step out kidogo tu because hawa maaskari they don't. Wala ni reject finish.
Last time I was next to them to aggressive hivyo. The bullet nilihata. Sasa hizi sisi mbaya na wakiniambia nikitoa na watafuta mahali pengine.
Sivyo hiyo sasa.
And some much credit to the journalists that really braved it. And in fact, I'm wondering why the police were asking that those journalists not to be with them, because according to the practice, the global practice, or what the Journalist Code of Ethics says, in protest, you be on the side of police. In fact, it says, you either be behind or in the same line. But if you're not protected, because you know, the thrones can be stolen, there are hazards from the other side of the crowd, and probably you're not protected, the police are supposed to protect you. And so those journalists were behind those policemen. And you could see that they were even, they were really struggling. They wanted to chase them away until at some point, there is another video that you'll see that they threw a tear gas canister to a journalist. So I'm even wondering why the police are saying they don't want to see those journalists there, because that is what the code of conduct says. That is where they are supposed to be. The journalists cannot be with the protesters the other side because they can be shot. And if they stand in front of the police, then the police are going to, they're also going to obstruct. So being behind, I know the reasoning here is some fellows want to do the foolish things they normally do when they're handling protests, and so that is why they didn't want the cameras to be there. There are some 4 reasons why I was paying attention to the today protest. Number one, envoys, the US envoys are in the country, are in Nairobi. Yesterday, they were meeting, met President in State House, met the police bosses, met the IPOA, and other, and even met the head of judiciary, Martha Koome. So they were here to monitor what exactly would be the conduct of the police today. And you can see they went full blast, just arrest. They didn't want to see anyone in town. Number two, there is a police IG acting on acting capacity. And again, I was paying attention because the reports of dead and identified bodies in the mortuary. People really wanted to see what these dead and identified bodies that would be in the mortuary, and will that really maybe alarm the police to change track. Now, there is an interesting tweet from William Ruto's lawyer, and it really explains what exactly is the Kenyan situation. I want us to read it through. Fragile, weak, unstable democracies, states like Kenya and most of the developing world, Bangladesh, Uganda, Nigeria, cannot withstand few days of demonstrations and riots, anarchists like instance England or America. Remember, there are protests in America, and we're not seeing police behaving with the people the way we're seeing here. Reasons: countries like Kenya and Bangladesh are built on quicksand and collapse very easily when the state is challenged by civilian forces. Continues to say, other than a strong executive headed by strong president, PM, and guns and ammunition, no other viable institutions exist in these countries. They don't have an independent, corruption-free judiciary. The police forces are corrupt and weak. The offices of DPP is ineffective and useless, and the parliament is captured by the executive. Corruption is a way of life. So when a few hundred civilian demonstrators appear on the streets, The state has only one response: guns and bullets. If guns and bullets fail, President Ruto must build Kenya institutions afresh. That's if he's honest about his Kenyan project. He must address the challenges facing the police, poor pay and tribal fools in the command chain. The office of the president shouldn't run the police force. Second, the judiciary must be reformed. It is no longer viable for Martha Koome to be in office for another day. He continues to say, she must go home before 2027. The 4 corrupt judges of the Supreme Court must pack their bags. Haven't they not taken enough bribes? And the High Court needs a tsunami to reform it. Third, President Ruto must give back Parliament its independence. Talk to MPs and you'll hear a house that is rubber stamp of the executive, where only the majority and minority leaders have the right to the floor of the house. I'm glad that America, through under Secretary of State, had told him what Kenyans told him many times, that he must fight corruption, build strong institutions, reboot his government, and finally, Mrs. Uzraya must have told him in no uncertain terms that America gave him too much carrot. The stake phase of Kenya-American relationship may start anytime. That is a statement from lawyer Ahmednassir. And there is one thing I've grasped there, that after the guns and bullets, you must work on Kenyan project. What they did today, and successfully, that there were no protests in the traditional opposition zones. That's number one. Number two, they were arresting everyone and anyone in Nairobi because they had gotten those legitimate calls. That gotten some legitimacy on some strong sort of panic, knowing that because Raila is with William Ruto, we want to justify the fact that broad-based is government. In fact, let me tell you, the today operation was an operation to defend and tell Kenyans that that broad-based operation has worked. What the state bloggers are propagating and what they are saying in social media spaces is not about how police is arresting anyone and everyone. If you believe that the broad-based thing is working, and so there are no protests, then you should just leave the buses to go to town. If you leave free mobility, I can tell you, if you leave people to go to town, free mobility, they know what will happen? The town will be full. Take that to bank and borrow loan. The town will be full. But because now, you also understand that police have now mastered the patterns, the crowd patterns and gatherings and the groupings of the protesters. Now that is why they have mastered the art of now dispersing it. But if you ask me, if people are not in town, the shops are still closed, the entry roads are still blocked, no one is selling in CBD, then you cannot come out and say, oh, my handshake with Raila has worked. If it would have worked, then there would be no people coming to town. Don't say there is no turnout. There was turnout, but who was to get to town? So me, I've always been saying that the president must just be, you must just face the objective. After the guns and the bullets, the reality must be that you must work on Project Kenya. I think there was some panic. The reason why there was a panic, there's some development to this and then that created some panic. Number one, the Ruto must go protest. The protest now had changed to Ruto must go. So they believe the Ruto must go was now clearly that if left, yes, that will be their destination. And the mobilization strategy was deep. The social media videos and the messaging in the matatus, it was actually very deep. The global voice in the protest, the US had really questioned the president about that. And I think the government was running a litmus test deal on Raila Odinga. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my take. You'll come back, I'll come back with the full exclusive analysis on the events of the day.